love science, but I hate how it's historically been weaponized to slut shame women. Like how in 4th century BC, Aristotle, of all people, came up with a BS biological concept that basically talked about how the men that a woman would sleep with could each influence the genetics of her offspring. Like, even if the guy didn't get her pregnant, the idea was basically that a part of him, that being some of his semen, would be left inside of her, and that leftover semen would just influence the genetics whenever she ended up getting pregnant, even if it was years later by a different human being. And of course, whenever Aristotle came up with this hypothesis, everyone was like, yeah, no, you're 100% right about that. Even Charles Darwin, all the way in the 1800s, agreed with Aristotle's hypothesis. You know, the guy who came up with the idea of natural selection? In fact, Aristotle's hypothesis wasn't even discredited until the early 1900s through scientific studies like this one from 1914, as well as multitudes of other studies from people like August Weismann, who also, in discrediting the concept, created a name for it known as telegony. Now, it's important to note that there were many different biological reasons why telegony was discredited, but one of the main ones that was very notable was that telegony didn't fall in line with the entire theory of Mendelian genetics. You know, Mendelian genetics, what you learn whenever you learn about the Punnett square, in which Gregor Mendel used a pea plant in order to identify how genes actually work. And of course, it was great that this BS hypothesis was finally discredited, but it still doesn't change a long history of misinformation surrounding the female reproductive system. And it definitely doesn't change how that misinformation was used in order to torment women throughout history. I'm so sorry.